This happened many years ago. I've never liked camping. I'm just not built for it. The dirt, the bugs, the uncomfortable nights in a sleeping bag that somehow always end up feeling like a rock by morning. Unfortunately, I've been camping more times than I can count, though never by choice. My dad is one of those rugged, wilderness-loving types, and every summer when I was a kid, he dragged me out into the woods with his equally rugged friends to disconnect from technology and reconnect with nature. By the time I hit sophomore year of high school, I'd had enough of suffering in silence. I finally convinced him to let me bring a friend along to make the whole thing a little more bearable. To my surprise, he agreed without much fuss. So, I brought my friend Charles from school. Now you'd think bringing Charles would have made it worse considering he was a hardcore Boy Scout back in the day and actually loves camping. But Charles was cool about it. He teased me for hating it, but he wasn't one of those "you're not a real man if you don't love the outdoors" types. Plus, I figured if I had to suffer, at least I'd be suffering with someone who knew how to make a fire and pitch a tent without turning it into a full-blown disaster. He was stoked to come, partly because he loves camping, but also because back then he looked for any excuse to get away from his parents. Unfortunately, the trip didn't go as planned from the start. It turned out that one of my dad's friends had messed up the campsite booking. Instead of some remote, peaceful spot deep in the woods, we ended up at this crappy, overdeveloped campsite. I'm talking indoor bathrooms, paved walkways, and even a playground for little kids. It wasn't camping. It was basically glorified backyard living, or glamping, I guess. To say my dad was upset would be an understatement. We didn't even discover the worst part until a few hours later. Right next to the campsite was a mini amusement park. I'm not joking, an actual amusement park, with carnival games, a Ferris wheel, and a handful of roller coasters. It's surreal. Those two settings were never supposed to collide. An amusement park and a campsite. Everyone was pissed. My dad and his friend grumbled about how this wasn't real camping, and Charles wouldn't shut up about it either. "This isn't real camping," he kept saying, as if I needed the reminder. It started getting annoying because Charles kept making jokes about my family as if we didn't know what real camping was. Now, as much as I hate camping, I know what it's supposed to look like. So I was getting annoyed that Charles was suggesting otherwise. I told him to knock it off, and he did. The whole situation sucked. We had driven hours out to the site. It wasn't like we could just turn around and leave, so with no better option, we made the best of it. The grown-ups sulked for a bit, but eventually got to work setting up the camp.